Sadly, we've got two technical failures today. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, okay. So we've got two technical failures. The projector wouldn't work, but that's fine. And then my overhead slide projector does work, but I've only got one acetate sheet. I thought there was loads more in the bag, but there isn't. So I'm going to be using the board. Those of you at the back, if you can't see, then please come forward. So there's a few seats around, so now's your chance to do that. I don't bite. So, just a quick background. I came to naturopathy or nature cure, and there's a difference between those two, because there was one day I started questioning why people fell ill, as opposed to what you could do once they were ill. Why did somebody get ill in the first place? And I started looking at lots of alternatives, and eventually I found a system that said it's to do with the way you live. So there's a whole load of different things that come together. So your genetics is part, your environment is part, how you live is part of it, your thinking processes are part of it. So there's all these different factors come together. Now, some of those things we can do something about, some things we can't. Your genetics and so on, there's not much we can do at the moment. I don't know whether we want to kind of get involved in doing some stuff with that and how ethical it is. But certainly there are things that are within your control, and that's the remit of where I come from. So I have a quote which I say to a lot of my patients, which is, there is only one way to health, and that's through healthy living. You can't live unhealthily and become healthy, really. So we're talking about what is natural and what is health today. What is natural? Well, when I kind of ask myself that question, the answer is it's very difficult to define what is natural. It's easy to define what is not natural. Okay, so give you an example. Are plants natural? Yes. They are. Okay. Is wood natural? Okay. Is soil natural? Yes. Okay. So plants are natural. Is tobacco natural? Yes. So is smoking tobacco natural? Why? It's natural. You just said tobacco is natural. So why is tobacco not natural? Smoking tobacco not natural?
The effects of it.
Okay. So what you have to say, what I'm trying to get you to think, okay, is just because something occurs in nature doesn't make it natural for you. Okay? So, is a lion natural? Yes. Is it natural for the lion to eat meat? Yes. Okay? You see what I'm getting at? Yeah. So there's things that are natural in the right place. And so for a human being, and even human beings are different. So if you're Chinese, your genes handle fat differently, alcohol differently to somebody who's Danish. So there are even those genetic variations. We're not all the same. Individually we're different, but even racially there are differences. And we need to kind of acknowledge what is normal and natural for you and your situation. So can everybody still hear me? Yeah, okay. So are seasons natural?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to these things. Day and night, is that a natural pattern in day and night? Okay. Are clocks natural? This is a tricky question. Are clocks natural?
No.
Okay. And that's important because how many of us live our lives by the clock? Okay. But are they natural? Okay. So should a clock dictate a lot of what happens to you? It shouldn't, okay? So we'll come back to this. So organic food is more natural than food that's not organic, okay? So if some of you got children here in the class, you know, if your little son or daughter comes up and says, "But Daddy, that cannabis is organic." Okay? You get what I'm saying now? You know? So some things are just kind of not okay. So you have to when you think about natural, you have to start thinking, what is natural? Is it natural in this situation, for this time, for this person? So mainly we're talking about people. Okay. So you have to start thinking about it. And what might be natural for somebody who's working outdoors, say somebody like a lumberjack, who's physically active all day, what is natural to them might be very not natural to somebody who's sitting on a desk all day, clicking a mouse. So you get where I'm coming from. And one of my dreads is when in practice, when somebody turns up and says, "I've read this book on diet, you know, and I'm going to be following it." My heart always sinks. Because they have this like one size fits all. You know, there's no such thing. It has to be right for you in your circumstances. So if we look at, a lot of you've got children here, you know, children's needs are different to adults. Okay? Give you just one example. Bar of chocolate, 50 grams. Okay. Little child has a bar of chocolate, 50 grams. How does that relate to their body weight? Okay. You don't expect them to eat an adult plateful of food. You know, pro rata, it hits them much harder. So everything has to be mini. No. So you have to start kind of exploring that concept and see how it kind of applies through lots of different things. Same thing with kind of, you know, tiny little feet, small steps, you know, 5 miles to a child might be very different to 5 miles to a big adult. So, you know, pro rata, you've got to be understanding of those things. Food is the same. Children are growing, and their needs are very different to an adult. So we'll be exploring some of these concepts. So that was just a little introduction about like throwing some things out there to try and get you to think about these things. What is health? How can you define health? How do you define health? Again, sorry?
A body that is at ease. No.
Say that again.
A body that is at ease.
A body that is at ease. Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad answer. Yeah. Again, it's much easier to define what health is not than what health is. You know, we can. If somebody's on a heart-lung machine, you can kind of say, well, actually, they're not healthy. You know, it's much easier to define that. I have a concept of. I'm going to jump on that. If somebody has, say, is coughing, are they healthy or unhealthy? Unhealthy. Okay. So now this is I'm going to throw some bombs in the audience here. Okay. So if you imagine somebody who's really healthy goes into a room that's full of smoke, what should happen? It's a protective response. You take something in that shouldn't be there, your body's going to start doing things to get it out. It's not unhealthy, it's actually a sign of health. Or can be a sign of health, okay? So a lot of things that we mistake for things that should not be happening could actually be a sign of health. And the whole of medical science out there tries to stop things happening, rather than actually asking these deeper questions and coming to kind of a whole different way of looking at things. So today we're going to explore some of that. I have a concept of vitality. What is vitality? How can you judge vitality? Anybody here, James and Dawnley, don't have dogs and cats and horses and things, But if you're a farmer and you go to buy a cow, or a bull, you're going to choose very wisely what you get. And people who buy horses for millions of pounds look at their pedigree. Okay? Why? Because it affects the children. Okay? And I have a quote in the work that I do. The most important thing, the absolute most important thing you can do for your health is to choose your parents wisely. That's the single most important thing you can do, is to choose your parents wisely. Okay. And that's true. It plays a big part in what happens to you in life.
Are you researching on it?
It's too late.
So no, but your genetics plays a huge part in what happens to you. And you just get, some people are just made more robustly than other people. And they can survive things, much better. So we are not all the same. Some people are just born weaker than others. And sometimes in the same family as well, depending on what's been happening. Like I had a colleague whose his mum was pregnant with him in the First World War, where there was just very little food, and he was born compromised in a big way. So all these things matter. But vitality is one good measure of vitality. One good way of measuring vitality is the ability to produce lots of energy over a long period of time. Okay? Not just lots of energy for like a day and then you've finished, but lots of energy over a long period of time. So that's a measure of vitality. And any of you who are gardeners, any gardeners here? Grow stuff? No? If you grow lettuces, for example, what happens to lettuce? That's kind of, if it doesn't get enough water, it bolts. It goes to seed. It produces a tremendous amount because it thinks it's going to die. So it knows it must come get the seed ready because it might be on the way out. Okay. So there's a lot of activity, but it's not sustainable. So that's not vitality in those terms. So, quick recap. Not all symptoms are bad. Okay? We need to understand them. And in terms of what happens, give you a very easy, simple example. Okay? You go to a friend's house, they pick some mushrooms, and they're poisonous, and they make a nice risotto or something with the mushrooms. You eat it. If you're healthy, what should your reaction be? Vomiting. Okay? The healthier you are, the quicker you should vomit, because if those things get absorbed, they could kill you. So it's the body's response to that poison to kind of try and get it out. And if you try and stop the vomiting, what might happen?
Poison.
You could end up poisoning yourself, and maybe get compromised, kidney damage, or death. Even. So it's actually life-saving, literally. Now, somebody who isn't as vital, somebody who's very, very vital, the reaction's going to be immediate. You're going to vomit straight off. Immediately the body says, no, I want this out. Somebody who hasn't got that energy to make that happen, the body is compromised, it might take a bit longer and you might get diarrhea. But it's still kind of trying to get it through. So should you try and stop that? Okay. It's a lifesaver, not something to be stopped. So it's about understanding what's happening. So that's a very clear-cut example, what's happening. But we're going to today, I'm going to, in a few minutes, start exploring this concept of, James here, live and let live, hands up, live and let live. Okay? So, antibiotics, where's the live and let live? Okay? I've not had any antibiotics since 1978 at least. It might be 1977. I've come off my bike, had stitches, all sorts of stuff. Don't need antibiotics. I don't need to fight with bacteria. Try and live in harmony. So we're going to explore that concept of living in harmony, which is part of the remit of what we're going to be talking about. So, give you a very simple example. If you have flies in your kitchen, you have lots of flies in your kitchen, what's the best solution? Fly spray? Why not? Kills the flies. That's one solution, okay? Another solution would be to clean the kitchen. So you clean the kitchen, flies don't have anything to live on, they disappear, they slowly die out. Okay? The advantage of cleaning the kitchen is not only do you deal with the flies, but the cockroaches that were on the way in. They don't have anything to live on either. And the rats. And guess what? It smells much nicer. Okay. So that's one solution, is to just look at the bugs and try and fight them. Another solution is actually look at a much wider picture. So, anybody here had a new kitchen recently, or a new bathroom? It's not a trick question. Okay, I had a new kitchen put in 5 years ago. And what has to happen when you want a new kitchen? What has to happen? You have to take away the old one first. Yeah. And what's your kitchen going to look like when you're doing that?
Dust.
Lots of dust. It looks not like a kitchen. Okay. Could you cook in there? Could you throw a dinner party and impress your friends? You can't. Okay. So, but if people turn up to put a new kitchen in, you kind of turn around and say, no, I don't want this messy stuff. Just go away. Can you get a new kitchen? You have to go through that change. A few days messing around, then you get a new kitchen. So, you have to be willing to go through that to arrive at a better place. Okay? So, the concept I want to explore is this idea that the bacteria and fungi and viruses are the things that are responsible for our being unwell, and we have to fight them. You know, are they the cause? So give you another kind of little example. So, you know, every other Wednesday on my street, the dustmen come, you know, and everybody puts their rubbish out before the dustmen arrive, and then the dustmen come and collect it. So, are the dustmen responsible for the rubbish? But whenever you see the dustmen, the rubbish is always there. So one solution would be get rid of the dustmen. You won't have the rubbish. You know, because the two always go together. You get rid of that one, you don't get the other one. Okay? So that's one kind of mentality. So, okay, so this idea of kind of bugs causing disease is so alien to me now, because, you know, I don't live by that system, and I haven't been living by that system since 1982, when I came across Nature Cure. But even before that, I was wary of chemicals. Chemicals are not natural, you know, and anything that came from a laboratory, I always kind of thought, no, I don't want much to do with that. So be careful of anything that comes from a laboratory. Now, I'll give you an example. Back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, everybody was saying you should be eating margarine. You know, margarine's much better for you, don't eat butter. You know, in those days, I was saying, no, I'm not going to eat margarine because it's gone through a chemical process. So I was eating very small quantities of butter in those days. And you know, it's been proven to be true. And my sole basis of that was that it was chemically treated. Now, I live by a philosophy rather than just a bit here, a bit there, a bit there. You know, somebody says, oh, a glass of red wine is very good for you. Then somebody else says, don't have red wine. You know, don't have any alcohol. Somebody's like, oh, go in the sunlight. Oh, don't go in the sunlight. You know, have some milk, good for your bones. Don't have milk. You know, where do you go? It's a big confusion. And I live by a very simple philosophy, like I said, with the butter issue. Get the philosophy, you can get all the answers you want. Quite simple, really. So, and just one that's happened recently to me is coconut oil. Anybody here like coconut oil? Yeah. You know, yeah, it's kind of like the modern new thing now. You know, guess what? In 3 or 4 years, they'll come out with something else. They'll have some spin to get you to buy something else. Okay? Back in the 80s, I came to a very rational decision. I don't use much oil. I don't do much fat in my diet. But what, you know, if I was going to use anything, I use olive oil, but I don't fry with it. Put it at the end. So it goes for flavour, bit of texture. But I don't fry. I don't heat it, superheat it. And I've been doing that since 1982, and in 20 years' time, I'll still be doing the same. Coconut oil or no coconut oil. Okay. So it's like there's lots of hype that people generate to try and get you to part with your money. And pardon the pun, but you know, they're not going to get it from me. Okay. So this kind of concept of bacteria and fungi being the baddies, okay, where does it come from? There have been a couple of programs recently on TV, radio, about sort of bacteria and fungi and stuff living on your body. Anybody came across those? No? Nobody listened to those? Okay. I know 2 people here should have listened to it because I sent you the link. So, if you want, I've got the links on me. We can let you have the links. Has somebody got an e-list?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send you the link and you can spread it around. So, as you're sitting here in this room, for every human cell you've got, either on you or inside you, there are 10 bacteria. And that's not counting the viruses, which are even more than that. Okay? but there are at least 10 bacteria for every human cell you've got. You are more bacteria than human. Okay. So, and this whole concept that we have is that they're kind of bad things that we have to fight. This is so totally alien. Yes, there are bacteria that can do serious damage to you, but they need the conditions to grow. Okay, so take a look at that. So under normal living conditions, your body has 4 channels that it uses to get rid of junk that it doesn't like. And these 4 channels are your skin producing sweat, your lungs producing the air that you breathe out, your bowels producing stools, and your kidneys producing urine. So you've got 4 channels. There's a 5th organ that's involved, which is your liver. It doesn't have a direct outlet that helps the other 4. Okay? So you've got 4 channels, 5 organs. Now if you imagine that you're living in such a way that they can't cope with all the junk you're putting in, or you're generating. So you could be putting it in, absorbing it, or you could be generating it by getting stressed, for example. And if your body can't eliminate it, then it starts to pile up. And so initially, you can't have too much of this stuff in your blood, because if your blood got toxic beyond a certain point, the blood going to your heart would be toxic, the blood going to your brain would be toxic, they would stop working to their best, and then your life would be compromised in a big way. So your body in its wisdom will say, we're going to put this stuff in temporary stores, with the idea that at a later date we're going to deal with that, when there's a chance to deal with it. Now, if that never happens, so you're constantly piling more and more and more, the temporary stores get full, the overflow is going to be back in the blood. At that point, your body has to take one of 2 decisions to keep you alive. The first one is, it will try and find a way to get this out that is not normal or natural. Okay? So that's where, for example, you might get your diarrhea. It's not normal or natural, but it's stuff coming away. You might get a cold. It's stuff coming away. You might get a boil. It's stuff coming away. So I'm going to come back and show you how the viruses and bacteria kind of link into that. But if you just think of that as the body kind of eliminating. Now what happens? You've got diarrhea or you've got a cold, and you say, no, I'm going to stop you doing that. You take your decongestants, or you take your Imodium or whatever it is to stop it. What happens? Temporary stores are full, can't have it in the blood, your body's got to start to dump it much deeper. And depending on where the deeper dumping happens, you get the corresponding chronic disease. So deeper dumping in your joints, you get arthritis. Deeper dumping in your fatty tissues, you get cancer. Deeper dumping in your fibrous tissues, you get fibrositis. In your arteries, you get arteriosclerosis. 2 linked. Stop the acute, you go to the chronic. If you have chronic, to recover, what's got to happen? The body's got to eliminate all the junk. It's going to start to come out. Okay? So, the 2 are interlinked. Stop the acute, you go to chronic. If you have chronic, your recovery is going to be through the acute. And in the work that I do, we say, there's a saying, which is, give me a fever and I'll give you a cure. It's often the cure that the body needs. So, the 2 are interlinked. That's all well and good, but where's this kind of bacteria stuff? Okay, and also, what I'm saying to you is like, you can just say, oh, he's just saying it. Where's the proof that what I'm saying is true? Okay, let's take a look at. Don't take my word for it. Look around you. What's happening? Look around you and see what's happening. What's happening is, since the Second World War, we've got very clever with dealing with infections. We've got very clever at dealing with colds, fevers, diarrhea, boils, or virtually any acute condition, we can stop it. got very clever at it. So what's happened to all the chronic stuff? Look at any graph, asthma, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, colitis, fibrositis, diabetes, you know, every graph is going up, every single graph is going up. That's despite the fact we're spending billions on the NHS. It's free, and you're getting more ill. Okay. Anybody with any kind of common sense can only come to one conclusion, that what you're doing is not working. Not only is it not working, it's making it worse, because all the graphs are going up. Okay? So we're spending billions, you know, one side politicians say, oh, we're spending more money on the NHS than ever before. You know, another side says, oh, but there's a bigger queue. Where anybody with any common sense can only come to one conclusion. It's not working. You know, and it can't work unless you deal with the basic issues. Quite simple, really. If you have a tack in your shoe, if you've got a nail in your shoe, you don't need some meditation technique, you don't need thicker socks, you don't need a painkiller, you know, you need to pull the nail out. Quite simple, really. So look at what are all the factors involved in getting you there, and then do something about those. It's not one. That's the medicine way. Is look for one thing. You know, in reality, there'll be lots of different things. So that's one thing. Okay, if you look at the graphs, they're all going up. Okay. Second thing is, if you look at the third world, some of us were fortunate enough to have kind of experienced that. You know, I had quite a unique upbringing in a way compared to today. You know, I didn't get a toothbrush till I was about 9, 10. Used to chew my stick every morning. People remember that one? Yeah. You know, acacia stick. Still have my teeth, you know. So it works, you know, like so, and my mum used to grind the millet every morning to make the rotlo, you know. So it was a different life. But we didn't have antibiotics, and we didn't do all that stuff, you know. And people had less chronic. So the two go hand in hand. That's the second bit of proof. Okay. And the third bit is, if you go to still remote places, there's very few left now where they don't have antibiotics, antiseptics, vaccination stuff. Those people, you know, outliving us. You know, go to a place like Georgia in Russia, the Vallecamba Valley in South America. You know, people live into ripe old age without any of these things. So it's not just medicine. And in fact, if you talk to the experts, medicine's contributed some life to some longevity to our lives, but it's very little. The biggest longevity is actually from good sanitation, clean water, good working conditions, good living conditions. They're the 4 biggies. So they're the things that actually keep us alive and well, to a great extent. So, okay, so what about bacteria and fungi and viruses? So what happens, anybody here got a compost heap? No, we're not gardeners. Anybody know friends who've got a compost heap? So what happens on a compost heap? You put your kitchen scraps, you know, bits of carrots and lettuce and tomatoes and whatever on the compost heap. It rots down into soil, and then you dig it into your garden. Okay? Now, anybody here got a garden? Yeah? Do your children ever play in the garden? Okay. Do they always wash their hands totally and completely before they start eating? Here's a shock for you. In a quarter teaspoon of soil, there are more bacteria than the entire human population of this earth. Okay, and in soil, provided it's good soil and you haven't chemically killed it, if it's living soil, there's good bacteria, there's bad ones, there's all sorts. There's lots of different stuff happens in the soil. And you're still here. Okay, your great-grandfather used to farm. And you're still here. And you can't live without them. That's the bottom line. And we've been fooled into thinking that we have to do battle. You have to spray Dettol on your worktops. No. Small surprise when you get all the chronic stuff. So, if you look at the soil, it's amazing stuff, you know, and you would not be alive without those things. Like I said, you know, on your inside, you 10 bacteria for every human cell. So what happens is actually there's a symbiosis. This is the understanding bit in terms of Jainism. There's a symbiosis. You've got junk inside you. Nature wants that junk back in the soil. Okay, so if you look at all the little things like insects, bacteria, fungi, viruses, what do? They take things back to the soil. That's their role in life. They take things back to the soil. Okay, so that's what they're here for. That's their function on this earth. They're just here to take things back to the soil. They're not here to fight you. They're not here to kind of make havoc with your life. They're just here to do their job. And if you lived in a way that you accumulate lots of junk, you know, your body's almost kind of saying, hey guys, come give us a hand. And it's an effort to try and get it back into the soil. So give you another kind of example. Anybody here got an apple tree in the garden? Yeah, got an apple tree? Some apples, you'll see there's a worm's gone through, okay? But if the apple's still on the tree, you can pick the apple, cut out the bad bits, eat the rest. Yeah, you can do that. Now, if the apple was off the tree and it got damaged, the whole apple will spoil. The difference is the apple is connected to the life force. When it's on the tree, it's still connected. Once you take it off, it's not connected to the tree anymore. It's not being fed. And the whole apple will spoil. So, why does one apple off the tree get attacked, you know, and then it will rot, and the other one doesn't? It's to do with the life force. Okay? Same thing, if you think about, you throw your kitchen scraps on the compost heap, they all rot. You put your seeds and seedlings in the same soil, and the compost will nourish them. They grow stronger with the compost than without. In one place, everything's being destroyed, the other place is being nourished. Same bacteria, same fungi, same everything. The difference is life force. When you throw your kitchen scraps on the compost heap, life force is, they're either dead or they're dying, and nature says, back to the soil, please. When you put your seedlings in the soil, life force is coming up. And nature says, leave that alone. Okay? So my kind of motto, the way I've lived since last time I took antibiotics that I can remember was probably 78, but it might have been 77. But certainly since 82, you know, if I get a cold, cough, fever, diarrhea, whatever, I do what any animal would do. And if you know, what would an animal do? It would stop eating. Now that's no big deal to any Jain, is it? It should be no big deal to any Jain. It's like second nature to us guys, you know. So, you know, we're fortunate. At least we've got that, you know. So you stop eating, basically. And I've treated lots of children in practice with measles and mumps and never had any complications. Complications come if they fast. If they don't fast. Quite simple. So the need to be well nourished before they can go in there. But provided they're well nourished, you can do all sorts of stuff on this one. So really, viruses and bacteria are part of the environment. They're here. In fact, the air here is full of them. You know? Nature doesn't like a vacuum. And stop fearing them. In fact, you are bacteria. More bacteria than human. And all those bacteria need feeding. You know, they need feeding in the right way. There have been programs, I don't know if any of you have seen that, about what happens in your gut. Affects your mental health. You know, the bacteria in your gut affect your mental health. So there's a very intimate relationship we have with nature. My kind of, what I would like you to go away from here is to start exploring that rather than trying to fight nature. You know, what can you do to be in harmony with it? Like I said, I don't do antibacterial hand washing. Why would I want to kind of kill all the bugs? You know, there's 10 times more bacteria than a human being. You know, why would I want to kill? That's a whole part of me. So, yes, cleanliness, but soap and elbow grease. You know, good old-fashioned soap and elbow grease. Cleanliness, yes. Not chemical sterilization. So, any questions?
I've read about good bacteria in your intestines and things.
Yeah.
And you see adverts saying how you have all those probiotic drinks.
Yeah.
Are they actually
Yes.
useful?
Okay. So the probiotic drinks will have 3 or 5 different bacteria if you're lucky. Okay. In your gut now, if you're healthy, you should have 500 different kinds of bacteria, at least, and 1,000 different viruses, give or take, that live there doing you good. A lot of the viruses in your gut are actually bactericidal, which means the minute bacteria come in contact with them, they'll get killed. So they kill the bad guys, not the good guys. So that's happening, okay? So, and this is again, like if we kind of go back a few steps about living in harmony, and I've treated people, like I had a woman come to me a few years ago who'd taken lots of antibiotics, was having massive trouble with her guts. She'd gone to see somebody and was spending £80 a month on all this stuff, you know. And I just said to her, no, don't need to do that. You know, quite simple. When you go out of here, there's one simple rule, okay? If you have to go and buy something and spend money, the answer's normally wrong, okay? You should not have to go and buy stuff, okay? It should be around you. Whatever you need should be around you. My solution to her, what do we do in nature? You know, what would you do? If you saw an apple or a pear, what would you do? You go and pick it and you eat it, okay? Unwashed. Okay? So what I said to her was, like, she fortunately had a bit of garden with some herbs and stuff in the garden, and I said, look, just go and pick a few bits of parsley or mint or something, just have one leaf, you know, or one sprig of parsley with each meal unwashed. I saw her twice, she cancelled the third appointment saying, you don't need to come and see it. Nature's worked it all out, you know. We're trying to be too clever.
We are living in this country, as you said, with the different races, got the different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we are importing the food from everywhere, living
Yes.
in this country. So it is not natural. Right?
So you know what I said earlier about seasons?
Yeah.
Are seasons natural? Living with the seasons is also natural.
Yeah.
Okay? So we should try and live with the seasons.
Yeah, but something is not growing here, it's not meant for this country.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying to you, you know, is that we should be eating what's local and in season. Not something that's kind of like, you know, come flown in. And then, you know, so this is the other side of nature cure, is that, you know, when you go for that solution, you stop importing all this stuff, you stop the air miles, you stop the air pollution, you know, there's a whole chain of events that happens. The same thing happens, there's a famous quote that I've used with students, you know, I used to teach at Keele University, and one of the things I always used to say to them, little Johnny has got asthma. Okay, so mum or dad says, right, we're going to take you to the doctor, go in the car, drive to the doctor sees it, prescribes a inhaler, you drive to the chemist, get the inhaler dispensed, you drive home, starts using inhaler, feels a bit better, okay? But we know car pollution is one of the causes of asthma. So what's happened, there have been 3 journeys that have added to the cause, okay? So, but it doesn't end there. Sadly, if that was all, then that's fine. But actually, you see the bigger picture. To get the inhaler from the wholesaler to the chemist involves a journey. To get it from the factory to the wholesaler involves another journey. To get all the raw materials into the factory involves a journey. To generate the electricity to work, to run the factory. To get the paint to put on the inhaler, the plastic. You know, so there's this whole infrastructure kind of feeding to make this inhaler. And if you find a solution where you don't need any of that stuff, then all this other stuff starts to go. It's bad for economy.
When you say you use the olive oil, yeah, but it is also manufactured in the way that laboratory does.
Yes. Well, it's squeezed. Okay, I get cold pressed, extra virgin organic, but I don't use masses of it. Sorry, there was a question there?
I was just going to say, why is it that Indian bacteria is worse than British one? Because whenever we go there, we fall ill.
Yeah.
Indians never do.
Well, it's because you haven't acclimatized to those conditions, really. You know, and when I was in Goa, like the last time I was in Goa, there's a Jain sanctuary on the outskirts of Goa. Any of you been there? There's a Jain sanctuary just on the outskirts of Goa. So if ever you go there, try and find it. You know, and I kind of took a trip. There was a couple who were in the same complex that I was in, so I was going to try and get there, and then the best way was actually to get a taxi. You know, so I kind of said to them, do you want to share a taxi? You know, I'm going there. So yes, we kind of went along, and there was a waterfall. You know, in 2 stages, about 400-foot drop in 2 stages. And it was very fast flowing, and I kind of taken a walk up the hill, me being me, sort of up to the first place, and then beyond that there was virtually nobody living there. You know, it was kind of quite remote. And I took a very calculated risk. It was a risk, but it was calculated. I actually drank that water that was coming out of the waterfall. And the couple that were there, they were just like, you are completely mad that you are drinking unpurified water in India. And guess who got ill? But they were kind of eating meat in the restaurant. If you saw what happened in the market, like even if you're eating meat, you wouldn't want it anyway. You know. So, you know, yes, I did have one day when I was a bit loose, but that was it. And another time when I was trekking in Morocco, you know, I'm very passionate about mountains. I'm passionate about local water. So if I'm in a mountains region, I want the local water, basically. So again, I drank from the local stream. There was nothing, no civilization nearby. You know, just drank from the local stream, fast flowing. And just on that, the day before, I just kind of felt slightly uneasy, you know. And my uncle, Naren, some of you might know him, was with me, and I actually ate a tiny, tiny bit of a stone. Just put that in my mouth, sucked it in. And that was to get the bugs. Get the local bugs. So, and then, you know, I'm still here.
When you are talking about the stream, but otherwise if you go to the cities, what water you drink?
No, then I would buy bottled water. So that's a whole different story. So if you get too many humans in a small area, that's a problem. You know.
Density.
Yeah. Go on.
When maybe you give babies milk in a bottle, they say you have to sterilise it. What's your view on that?
Okay, so the best thing for babies should be breast milk. Okay. And comes out, not only sterile, but breast milk has antibodies to protect the baby. You know. And in the practice, I've actually, when some mums can't feed their baby, you know, because they have problems or whatever, then I generally say, if you can, the best solution is to get raw goat's milk. Raw goat's milk. If you stand a goat on its hind legs, it's about the same size as a human being. If you stand a cow on its hind legs, very big. So cow's milk is much richer than goat's milk, and goat's milk is nearly the same concentration. Now, raw unpasteurized milk has antibodies naturally. If you get raw cow's milk or raw goat's milk and you just leave it in a warm place, it won't go off, it will sour. You know, those of you from Kenya, you know, they used to say Maziwa Lala, sleeping, you know. It won't go off, it will sour, it turns into yogurt. Because the good buds are allowed to grow, the bad ones can't. That's provided the cows haven't been treated with antibiotics and stuff. The minute you pasteurize it, the antibodies are killed, and then things can grow. Then bad things can grow. In fact, one of my friends, he's been making cottage cheese from raw milk. He's managed to source some raw milk, and he just beats it with air, leaves it in a nice warm place, and it curdles. And then he just ties it in a muslin bag, has raw cheese.
But surely the human beings are supposed to have any other animal's milk.
No, but you know, if the mum can't feed,
No, but
yeah. So I mean,
if you're not supposed to, then you shouldn't harm not having milk. Then there should be some other nutrition for even for the babies.
Yeah, there are other ways.
Naturally, if you're not supposed to have any other milk.
Yes. So, but if you know, for babies, you know, if a mum can't feed, then the next nearest thing, you know, is basically goat's milk. That's the next nearest thing. That's nearest to a human being. That's still not a chemical. You know, and the difference is, like, you could do a tin stuff, but that's actually dead. It's not living anymore.
But where the concept of consumption of the milk has come about since Krishna Bhagwan's time? Is it the human beings are not supposed to?
Well, human beings have lived with cows and goats and things for a long time. So I don't have value judgment on that. You know, we can, provided you don't overdo it. I don't personally do milk, you know, but I don't have a...
Should it harm you not having it? Not having the milk, should it harm you?
Not if the rest of your diet's balanced. Okay. So, but you have to be careful. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I just heard that you can actually buy breast milk. You can actually, I think that's available, you know.
Frozen.
Colostrum. Colostrum?
Well, colostrum's different. Colostrum's the very first bit,
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
first
the
bit of
breast.
which...
Cow's breast milk, that's what they say.
So...
Half is full.
I know there was somebody in, I think in the States, making ice cream from human breast milk, and it got banned.
Yes, I heard it in the radio.
I think there's some route that way possible.
Okay, you know, in the old days, they used to have wet nurses. You know, they used to have a wet nurse. So if the mother couldn't feed, you know, you take the baby to a wet nurse.
You know, you mentioned that you eat meat, or some, I think Romit mentioned that you eat sort of most of your food raw. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes. So I've arrived at a 70% raw. I've got friends who are 100%. Okay, now they kind of argue that apart from human beings, no animal, human beings and their pets, no other animal eats cooked food. Fair enough, you know. But we've also been eating cooked food for a long time. That's my argument. And I slowly wound myself up to 70%. Now, 70% is a yearly average. In the winter, at this time of the year, probably more like 60, 65. I never kind of go and measure it exactly, but in the summer, I'm probably more like 80. And that's primarily because I actually grow a lot of my own stuff, and it's just there, just pick and eat.
So what about the grains you can't have, right? Because
So basically, if you go on my website, I've got some cards there. There's an article I wrote, which is about food and health, and 70% of what you eat should be solid fruit and vegetables. So you think about your plate, 70% pie chart, 70% should be solid fruit and veg. Your rotli and bath and dal and everything else should be coming in that 30%. Okay, so that's the right amount. So if you want more of this stuff, you have to eat more of the other stuff. So you want twice of this stuff, you have to have 2 lots of the other stuff. But that's a good way to be.
What's your typical week?
Sorry, I'm struggling to hear you.
What do you eat in a typical week?
What do I eat?
In a typical week.
Okay. Remember what I said before about somebody who's a lumberjack would need something different to somebody who's just sitting at a desk all day? For me, personally, I eat just fruit for breakfast, normally, but I sometimes have cereal if I'm cycling. But normally it's just fruit. Salad is lunch is always a big salad with some bread or rice, brown rice or something like that, potatoes. And evening meal, in the winter I normally do a cooked meal, so lots of cooked veggies and some kind of savoury, you know. So it could be like rice and beans or potatoes and hummus or, you know, whatever, something like that. Fresh fruit for pudding.
But
So
you need cereal. Isn't cereal in a sense your chemical?
No, I have, like, I would buy jumbo oats, or, you know, so I don't buy the commercial stuff. Occasionally I buy shredded wheat, but that's 100% nothing, you know, whatever. Normally I prefer the organic stuff.
So that's because you're growing your own stuff.
Sorry?
Because you're growing your own stuff. If you buy the fruits outside, vegetables outside, they are full of chemicals. They are not.
Yeah, so you buy organic, but just, you know, it's like, we've got an amazing community here, you know, like what I do is, like, for example, I get together with some friends, and on Monday I bought a box of oranges, organic, you know, a sack of beetroot, a sack of carrots, we just split them. You know, like, with the community here, a lot of you live kind of close to each other. It should be just so easy. I buy 25 kilos of organic brown rice, we split it, you know. 25 kilos of organic flour, wholemeal flour. Make my own bread, you know, very easy while I cheat because I've got a bread machine. Press the buttons, you go to sleep, you wake up, there's bread. You know. So, but, you know, in a community like ours, it should be so easy for you guys to organize that.
I'm not sure, so many vegetables you can't eat raw, like bean dal, potato, how can you eat raw?
Ah, potatoes. I always, when I have a dinner party and people come to me for dinner, you know, they get unusual things.
I have one question, sorry.
Well, one of the things I've served is raw potato. So I grated the potato, made a dressing of lime, olive oil, and a tiny, tiny bit of salt and pepper. And then mixed it all up, gave it to them, and I said, you tell me what this is. Nobody guessed what it was. Yeah, any vegetable you can eat cooked, you can eat raw. The only exception are kidney-shaped beans. If a bean has a kidney shape, you must cook it, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So I've had sweet potatoes raw, turnips, sweet parsnips, aubergines, ladyfingers. Yeah.
cholesterol has been sort of in the
Last
news.
one.
Cholesterol has
Yeah.
been in the news recently. It has been over the years anyway, and the doctors normally would prescribe statins. And what do you think about that? And how
Okay.
can you stop that?
So you have to. I don't have one simple answer like go and eat this thing and then it will sort you. You know, it's a whole life approach.
Recently, they say that when we say about the bad cholesterol and the good cholesterol, and if the quantity of good cholesterol increases in the body, that's not good as well.
So what I'm forget about good, bad, whatever. If you've got high cholesterol and you want to sort it, you have to have a lifestyle approach. There's not one thing I can say to you, just go and eat this and then you'll be fine.
So what
Okay.
about the statins that doctors prescribe?
Personally, I wouldn't take them. You know, I wouldn't take them.
Right. Because
There's solutions. You know, you can get solutions. Yeah. And I've treated people with cholesterol. Normally 3 to 6 months, you should see quite a significant improvement.
right.
So if you have severe diarrhea,
Sorry, how are we doing for time, guys? Because I was told 5 minutes, like that was 20 minutes ago. So, anybody taking responsibility? Sorry? 5 more minutes, okay. Vitamin D I've taken recently, but that's only because I wasn't able to get out in the sun enough, you know. But I had a holiday in Spain in January. I'm going on holiday at Easter time, and you know, I haven't been able to get outdoors as much. So I had a blood test, and my vitamin D levels were just below where they should be. So if you've got a brown skin, what I would suggest is all of you should go and get a vitamin D test. You know, and 85% of the British population at the end of the summer, 65% at the end of the summer and 85% in the winter is vitamin D deficient. And if you've got a dark skin, you're even more likely to be in that category. Okay, so that's my excuse for going on holiday. I don't care. Sorry. B12? B12 I have taken from time to time. Again, I had a blood test, and some people struggle absorbing it. So if you were in that category, but now this is an interesting one. What should be happening if we live completely natural lives, you know, is that bits of food should get caught in your teeth. Okay, that should then ferment. And then when you eat more food, that should kind of go in. And that's where you should be getting a lot of your B12 from. But hang on. But if you're using an antibacterial toothpaste, if you're using an antibacterial toothpaste, guess what happens? Should you use an antibacterial toothpaste? Okay. I don't do chemicals. For the last 15 years or something, I've been using bicarbonate of soda. Just take bicarbonate of soda and toothbrush, you know, clean up incidentals.
that's the reason the first thing in the morning before washing your mouth, drink the water, so the bacteria in the night goes in.
I only clean my teeth once a day.
No, I don't know, but this is the reason they say first thing in the morning.
Yeah, but that's what I'm. So you know, I only brush my teeth before I go to bed. That's it. So whatever's there, is taken in.
I wanted to ask you, lime and lemon, they say it's acidic in nature, but when it joins the body, it's alkaline.
Okay, we have to finish, but come and speak to me after.
Okay.
Um, I've got some leaflets, so feel free, and some cards. There's a lot of information on my website, so go there, and I'll send you a link that you can. So let me have your email address. We'll do that.
Just to make sure that there are people who may
So this doesn't mean everyone just stops.
No. So for example, if somebody came to me and had pneumonia, you know, you have pneumonia, I want you in hospital, I want you to have all the antibiotics, because without them you're going to die. But then we have to sort out why you got there in the first place. Okay? So if you had pneumonia and you're about to die, then I want you in there taking it, you know, doing whatever, and then we need to find out why you got there, so that it doesn't happen again. So I'm not against medicine. It should be the last resort, not the first resort. So yeah, it has its place, you know. And might come as a surprise, I occasionally say to my patients, you need to go and have surgery. You know? Because it's too far gone. You know, the hip's gone, you know, at that point you need to go and have surgery. If you have surgery, you're going to need antibiotics, you know. But hopefully, you can catch it early enough, you don't need, the hip wouldn't have deteriorated, and then, you know, you wouldn't need the hip replacement. And it's the old thing about, you know, the best cure is prevention. Okay?